Hello and welcome to the September edition of ngCopenhagen. My name is Sherry List and I am one of the organizers of ngCopenhagen together with Mosen, Peter and Alexander. And as for today, I am the only person from ngCopenhagen that is your host. As for today's show, we have two speakers. The first one is Bonnie, that she's going to talk about dynamic components. And after that, we are going to have Maxim that is going to show you how to build a PWA and deploy it to Azure. And he's going to build that PWA with the Workbox. So before we start the show, I want to give you a few community news about the other things that are happening around us. The very first thing is that I together with a couple of my other community friends, we started a dev show, which is a weekly show every Tuesday, right at 4 o'clock in the Copenhagen time. We have one speaker and one topic to have a deep dive. And some of the speakers for the dev show, you might happen to know them. So that's why that I will send you the link as well. That it's on the meetup. You can search for dev show. And I'd like to see some of you over there as well. The other thing is Hacktoberfest is coming, and that's the time to contribute to the open source. And there are a lot of meetups over there during October, and one of them is the contributing today. That I'm also one of the people behind it, and I would like to see you there. And we will also have some contribution to our favorite framework, which is Angular as well. And there is a Gotopia in Europe on September 15th to 18th, and we are the community partner with them. And all of you can use NG25 to get 25% discount for the ticket, but that's not the only one. 5 of you today, you can also get a free ticket to Gotopia. And I'm going to tell you how. We need your feedback. So we always want to improve, and we always looking for speakers, sponsors, volunteer. So I want you to give us some feedback. And 5 of you that you fill out our feedback form and show the interest that you want to be also part of, you want to get one of those tickets, you will get it. And we are going to contact you how to get that ticket. So please give us your feedback. And yes, we also will give you the to 5 of you the ticket to Gotopia. Before we start, I want to tell you that you have opportunity, no matter if you're watching us through Twitch or via YouTube, you have opportunity to ask your question from our speakers. How? By typing it in the chat box. And via that chat box, you can also talk to each other. You can also tell us that where you are watching us from, but we want you to be mindful of what you are typing there. And we really I really encourage you to familiarize yourself with our code of conduct, which basically means that be mindful of what you are typing there. But please use the chat box and interact and ask your question. And we are going to highlight the question at the end, and the speaker is going to answer you. So I want to say thank you for joining us, and I want to introduce you to our first speaker. Let me have her on the screen. Bonnie is our very first speaker, and she is one of my favorite member of Angular community. She's running multiple different initiatives around Angular, One of those is Angular Nation, and I'm a big fan of you, Bonnie. And I'm pretty sure you can introduce yourself way better than me.
No, that was such a good introduction. I could not possibly have topped that. I am a big fan of you too. I'm really glad to see you. I miss being at NG Vikings and going to Copenhagen in person, and I hope to see you again in person soon. But for now, at least I can see your beautiful face and come and visit you
Thank you.
here. So thank you very much for having me.
And thanks for
So
always helping us in NG Vikings and NG Copenhagen.
I love NG Vikings and NG Copenhagen. I felt sad the first time I went there. I think was the second year, and I would have been there the first year, but I didn't know how amazing it would be, and I wasn't paying attention. I had never even been to Europe at that point, and then I was watching you guys on Twitter. It was like all my favorite people are going, and I was very jealous. So the second year, I made sure to attend in person, and it was amazing. It was so fun. Anyway, so I was just on the show recently and I did an intro to Angular Nation and I have a couple of updates. So I kind of just want to run through that very briefly because I actually want to dive into some code tonight and we're going to nerd out and talk about so the demo that I have is it's called I'm using reactive forms and Angular material to show this demo, but it's not really about reactive forms. It's actually about architecture and more patterns and things like that. So that's actually the part that I really want to dive into. So if it's okay with you, I want to just kind of briefly go through some slides. I want to update you guys on what's going on with Angular Nation since the last time I saw you. But again, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I want to nerd out over some code. That'll be fun.
Sure. So let me share your screen. And the stage is yours.
All
See you.
right. Thank
Bye.
you. Okay, so I'm Bonnie Brennan. I'm an Angular GDE. I'm a panelist on Angular Air, founder of NG Houston, and now the founder of AngularNation.net, which is kind of a new project that I want to tell you guys about. And again, I talked about this on NG Copenhagen a few weeks ago, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I'm just going to give you the quick version. So this is a quick introduction to Angular Nation. I got the domain from Jeff Welpley back in 2017, and he was going to build something, but he didn't know what to build, and he got busy with another project, and so then I was going to build something, and I didn't know what to build, but I wanted to build something for the Angular community because I thought, Angular Nation, right? It sounds cool, but I didn't know what to build. So I imagined like a Stack Overflow / Reddit kind of thing. I wanted a place where we could talk to each other because this is really what I love about the Angular community. It's just so close knit and really lovely people. And also, when I was learning Angular, I struggled a lot in the beginning, and I learned so much faster once I started collaborating with other people about Angular. So that's really what I wanted. But again, I didn't know how. So I sat on it for a couple of years while I was consulting. And then in 2019, I found through Yoga with Adrian, Mighty Networks, which is the platform that Angular Nation is built on. And I absolutely loved it. As soon as I saw it, I knew that's what we were looking for. So I grabbed it. And then in 2020, we launched earlier this year. And so we've been up for about 6 months now. And we have, I think, 1,300 people so far. And yeah, so anyway, let me keep moving. So when I started getting involved in the Angular community and speaking at conferences, most of the speakers were using Twitter. And so I followed all my favorites. And pretty soon I had a great Twitter feed that was almost entirely Angular. It was like all Angular all day. It was great. And so for some people that might seem boring, but like that's all I use Twitter for. So it was a great place for me to keep up with the latest community events and announcements and all that kind of stuff. So for years, this has been working great for me. However, we've all seen the warnings about harmful patterns in social media, and we've got Instagram influencers and YouTube personalities and bots and trolls and a whole lot of political propaganda. And the algorithms that they use are intentionally divisive and harmful. And unfortunately, they're also very effective, as we've seen from Trump and Brexit. And I'm not here to talk about politics, so we're just going to keep moving. The point I want to make is that now more than ever, social media can be harmful to our mental health. And, I had carefully cultivated my Twitter feed so that it was all Angular, but that's completely changed this year. And I mean, and not that I meant it to, it's just, there's crazy stuff going on with politics and coronavirus and human rights conflicts. And no matter what country you live in, it's stressful, right? And I do care so much about the problems that I'm seeing, and people have every right to be upset about these things. But it's just so stressful. And I think the point is that we've seen it reported time and time again that these giant social media platforms are using algorithms intentionally designed to get emotional reactions from people. And it's very stressful and it's effective and it's not good. So anyway, so we used to call it social networking, and then somewhere along it changed to social media, which is something completely different, and kind of creepy, I think, because we don't really have control anymore over what we're looking at, and someone else is driving that, but it's so subtle, you know? So we've known for a while that social media is harmful, but we still have to be able to connect with each other. Even now more than ever, this is so important. We need to be able to have that communication. So that's why we still rely on that social media. But what we need is actually social networks and to have these private communities. And that's kind of what we're seeing more and more that's starting to emerge. And that's what I found in Mighty Networks. And so this is really what I felt like we needed. This is what I thought would be perfect for this domain that I've been sitting on for a long time. So Angular Nation is really meant to be a private community where we talk to each other without that influence from the big social media giants. So I've been speaking at Angular conferences for several years, and I love these crazy people. And what I love about the Angular community and the GDE program is people are super nice and they're so humble and they're all a bunch of nerds, right? So if you're in the hallway of a conference and you get a group started talking about code, they'll just stand there and nerd out all day unless someone stops them. And I love them, especially NG Vikings. This is one of my favorite conferences in the whole world. And I love that friendly environment and I miss that. And I want all those people who can't travel to be able to experience that. And that is why I created Angular Nation. So we could have a place like that hallway track where we could just chat with each other. It's a private online community, but it's free. The only reason it's private is so that we can have a code of conduct and basically which says, you know, be nice. We want to keep things on topic. We're only talking about Angular here, asking questions, trading tips, comparing experiences. All you need is an email address. And our code of conduct is basically kind of the same as ngCopenhagen, right? Be nice. Think about what you're saying. Don't spam us. It's just meant to be a really friendly place, like a hallway tracked place to nerd out over Angular. And at first I was worried that a lot of people would ask questions and I wouldn't be able to keep up with them. So I invited a bunch of GDEs to join us and kind of have other experts in there to help with answering questions. But I didn't really have anything to worry about because it's just been so super friendly and we have just as many people answering questions as we do asking them. And people have been really nice and a lot of actually experts on there that I didn't even know. So it's been fun. So people can come and post whatever they want to share. A lot of people are asking questions about their Angular. And then sometimes there are great discussions. We established right from the start that beginners are welcome here. So no flaming someone for asking a beginner question, right? And we don't do that. But we actually get a lot more advanced questions here, which I love because it's interesting for me. Also, the interface looks a little bit like Twitter, but we have a feature that Twitter doesn't have because we have topics. And so, you know, if you want to just search for everything about GraphQL or everything about NGRX, or if you're just looking for Ivy, then you can just click on that topic and see all of the posts in that category. So I love that. We have like 20 topics, I think, so far. It's kind of new and we're still growing, but like AngularJS, CLI, schematics, elements, material, lots of people talking about state management, Scully, RxJS. And we also have some of the authors and core team members directly answering questions on there. So that's cool. We have a bunch of channels. We have an ngCopenhagen channel now. And it's brand new, right? So we're still kind of getting everything set up, but basically the channels are like breakout rooms for smaller groups. And what we found that actually we were surprised about, because, you know, we really tried to gear Angular Nation and make it supportive and welcoming for beginners. But we found when we started that a lot of people here are not beginners. And when we asked like, how comfortable are you? How expert are you with Angular? We have a lot more senior developers and architects. So that was a surprise to me, but you know, it's a great surprise because we're having some very interesting conversations. Okay, so Samantha and I had actually been working on a beginner course when we launched Angular Nation, and we were doing like all kinds of videos for super basic topics like interpolation and components. But when we realized that we had more senior developers and architects, we pivoted and we created Angular Architect Training. So we just run this in small groups, and we have a content session every week and then office hours. So we skim through some of the topics and then we deep dive more during office hours so people can come in and ask us questions. It's been super fun. And it's a way to get architect training. So we took a lot of mistakes that people were making all throughout all the stuff that I've learned through consulting and enterprise teams and just distilled those down into 4 weeks of training. It's like just a few hours a week. So we finished our August training last week. We got very good feedback, and we really met some cool students. And now we have our September class is starting in like a couple days. It's starting Monday. So I don't know what day it is, Wednesday, Thursday. Anyway, our next class starts next week. So if you want to join architect training, then go sign up now. And also, so this is the last thing about the course, and then I'm going to jump into this this demo that I want to show you, which is actually from the course, right? So it's just kind of a little sneak preview. But the last thing I want to say about the course is we think it's a really great value. We tried to actually make it very affordable. But in some parts of the world, the currency makes anything like this prohibitively expensive, no matter how affordable we try to make it. So we started a baker's dozen scholarship for underrepresented groups. So for every 12 tickets we sell, we give one away to an underrepresented group just to try to even things up a little, you know. We just awarded a free ticket actually this morning because we reached 12. And so we every time we reach 12 tickets, we give one away for free. So we have one more person waiting, and then we also offer a sliding scale because we really want to make this accessible for underrepresented groups. So if you're interested in a scholarship or a sliding scale, please reach out. Let me know. I want to work with you and make this something that you can have access to. Okay, so that's it. Enough slides. Let's go look at some code. I'm going to take this off and just jump right in here to, now I can see my desktop again. Yay. Okay, so before I do, I want to show you guys the local host. Let me see if I can bring it up here and hopefully it'll work. Okay, so this is a very simple, super simple interface, right? I have a new form. There's an edit form where it's got some stuff already filled in. But basically, we've got first name, last name, phone number, email address, and then some drop downs. This is just random stuff I made up for the demo. Favorite food, favorite season, right? These are select drop downs. And again, this is all Angular material and reactive forms. So I want to start with, let's open up the demo without. So what I want to do is, because I made this dynamic component that I want to show you and I want to walk you through it. But first, I want you to see just what the code would look like without this. And you will probably find this very familiar because this is very typical. This is something that I see quite a bit in all of my consulting travels. To me, this is just something I saw over and over again, right? This is typical reactive forms with Angular material. And I really tried not to put too much code in here because I just wanted to keep this very simple and show you what I want to show you over in the dynamic component. But basically this is Angular material, right? You got some form fields here. These are just basic input form fields. And then down here, you've got some material select with the drop-down options. And if we look over, I'm going to open this to the side. We have the TypeScript that goes along with this component. And again, I'm assuming this looks familiar to anybody because this is pretty basic stuff. This is reactive forms. You could put a form builder in here, but you know, this is the same. These are the same form control names that match up over here, right? So if this looks familiar to you, if this is how you're writing your code, and again, this is what I see over and over and over again, there's nothing wrong with this. This code works fine, right? This is very typical code that I see, but here's the problem. It's not dry, right? You've got your mat list item here, you got your mat list item here, and the only thing different is the form control name and the label, right? So really we're looking at this, and I mean, if you just have one, right, you don't want to go and create a dynamic component for everything because it's going to slow you down. But if you've got, 19 pages of reactive forms, which I have seen in some bigger clients, then if you're doing this over and over and over again, obviously this is going to get crazy, right? So the thing that I really try to call attention to when I'm working with clients is there are a lot of developers out there that they get so busy that what happens is they're just head down, just busting out code, and they just write this stuff over and over and over again, and they just keep on writing it like this. And so what I want to say is if you're using, it doesn't have to be reactive forms. This example is reactive forms, but I've used the same type of pattern that I'm about to show you for material pop-ups, right? Dynamic pop-ups, or maybe toast notifications. We implemented a pattern like this for graphs. So really, when you see something a lot in your application, anytime you see something that's you're doing the same thing over and over again, and it's not dry, right? But it's a little bit difficult in the beginning. I think the reason why it was difficult for me when I started with Angular and when I started doing stuff like this, and the reason why my code looked like this and why so many people's code does look like this, is because if you start to extract this stuff out, and especially when you're using kind of dynamic stuff anyway, like reactive forms or Angular material that's already dynamic, a lot of the tutorials that we see out there, like you're going to outgrow them once you start going into this more dynamic stuff. And so I struggled with that a little bit, but let's look. I want to show you some more code here. And again, not again, I haven't said this yet. I'm not going into a lot of detail on this, and I'm skimming through some of this code because I don't want to spend a lot of time on stuff that I think you guys know. But this is, I sent this to Sherry, and I'll send it to her again after the show. We're going to, we'll tweet it or link it or whatever. This is all available on GitHub. This is a public repo that you guys can see. So the code that I'm about to show you, you can go and literally copy it and use it yourself. And I'm encouraging you to do that. So don't worry about keeping up with me because it's all on GitHub. Okay, so what I want to show you, I'm going to just peek in here real quick and show you the cool part of this. And I'm going to put it right there to the side. Okay, so we start this component with models, right? We need to have that type safety, right? So we've got an interface here for our field, but really even first before that, we have to start with the field type, which is just an enum. I'm not using these all in the demo because, like I said, it's a simple demo, but I hooked it up because I've used this actual code for several clients and it just got really popular, which is why I started sharing it. But the only thing I think that we're using in this demo is the text field here and then the select dropdown. And the only things that are required are the name and the type. And the type is up here, right? The type is this right here. And then every reactive form field has to have a unique name. All the rest of these are optional, and we'll see in a minute. We're going to look into the inner workings of just briefly of the reactive form and look at how that goes. The other thing I want to show you is the interface for the key value pair. This is not an Angular thing. This is not a Bonnie thing. I didn't make this up. This is actually just a general computer science. It's been around forever, but it's something that I didn't know. It wasn't obvious to me when I first started programming. So it's just one of the things that I try to throw in there and teach, because what I'm going to do is when I'm going to make this component and I want to just go through an array of key value pairs. And when I go through it, well, I'm going to start with an array of form fields here, and then I'm going to come back with an array of key value pairs. And I don't want to show it to you. I don't want to tell you about it. I want to show it to you. Okay, let's start with I think the simplest part. Here, let me close this one here. And that's not what I want to start with. I want to show you this because this is kind of where the magic happens. And I think this is for me, is when I was learning this was the easiest part for me to understand what's happening in this component, because it's basically just a switch case, right? If I'm assuming you're familiar with a switch case, it's basically like an if else, right? So we're switching on the field type. And again, if you remember, the field type was, input, checkbox, drop down, that kind of thing. So we've got our checkbox here, our date picker here, single radio, right? So the field type is just going to switch. Now, I want to say, and I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon because we have Maxim after this, and I want to see his talk too. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but I just want to say that the switch case is not exactly the fastest way to do this. If you're rendering many items on your page, you don't really want to use a switch case because you would rather use a component factory resolver. But for the purposes, I'm probably not going to put 100 or 500 form fields on one page. So for the purposes of what we're doing here, the switch case works fine. So I think that this is pretty self-explanatory when we're looking at this code. And again, this is all in the public GitHub repo. This is just Angular material inside each one of these. So we're just doing a switch case and we're putting in the map form fields, right? I want to show you the TypeScript that goes with this. This is actually deceptively simple. When I started writing this, actually, I'm going to come back to this. I want to show you this form group directive because it's very cool. But first, let's look at the parent component here. So this ng container, right? Look at this, ng4 let field of field set. So we have an array of fields, and then we're just going to iterate through those. And so for each field, we're going to show our little dynamic field here, which the dynamic field is the switch case that you just saw, right? So this is basically pretty simple. I commented out the error handling when I updated it to version 10. This is running on Angular version 10. I think I need to update it now. Version 11's out. I got to keep up. Anyway, so let's go and look at this. No. Let me think here. Okay, we've got the dynamic field. We've already looked at the switch case. So I just want to run you briefly through how this works. We're passing in our field set from the parent, right? And again, these are optional. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm not going to go through all of the optional stuff, but just from the names, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You can make any field read-only or have error messages or pre-populated data if you want. You just put that in your array if you want to use it. So also, I'm going to show you at the bottom how we're going to handle those emit form values, because when something changes, we're going to pass it back up to the parent component. Because again, this dynamic form component is something that's meant to be used over and over again. So first, we're going to initialize the form. And then so again, because we just have an array, right? So when I talk about, I want to slow down for a minute because this demo is not so much about the code. And I know you guys want to see the code, and that's why I wanted to have a working, demo for you. And it is a really cool code that I've used for a lot of clients, but it's not so much about the code, because what I want to say to you is it's about the bigger pattern of iterating through an array, right? And it's very simple, because when you find that anything, and I mean, maybe it's simple, but this is something that I see and I teach over and over again. When you find that your code it's dry, but it's not quite dry, right? That's when, really, when you see, let's go back over here. When you see your code looks like this, and again, this code works. This is material with reactive forms, right? And it works. But what I want to say to you is, if your code looks like this, or if you're training developers, their code looks like this, you're not using the beauty of Angular, because this is really missing out on exactly what we love so much about Angular. And so this is really what we're doing here. We iterate through an array, and then we can just create this stuff on the fly, and that's where the beauty of Angular comes in. So we've got a field set, and for each, we're going to go through each field, and we're going to do this. This is reactive forms, right? Add control. Then we've got another section where we're going to initialize the form control. And I think as you read this, right, that this is an optional slide toggle. We had some conditional fields that I added here. I think that this stuff should be very simple, because again, you've got the for each, add control, and then initialize each form control here. So what's going on inside of here, like this whole thing is very simple. When we initialize the form control, we've got a couple of optional things. And again, I hope you'll notice when I'm going through this, that most of this is comments. There's lots of comments here and here, because I created this for teaching purposes. I thought a lot about creating an NPM library from this, because this has been a very popular piece of code that everybody likes when they see it. And I've shared this with a lot of other architects. And I wanted to create an NPM repo, and I was actually about to several times. And I actually decided not to intentionally, because I don't want you guys to have another dependency. And this is not that much code. You can literally copy this if you want to, and you can use it. But I want you to, you might not be using Angular material, or you might not be, you might not want reactive forms. You might want pop-up dialogues or something like that. So the point is that it's not so much this specific code, that I don't want to have just another NPM library out there. I just want to talk about, and again, this is one of the things that we're teaching in the architecture course, about how to extract things out. We can get very, very complicated, but I don't like to teach I don't want to make it complicated. I want to make it simple. And really what I want to go back to is to make an array, right? I want to keep going back to this, because this is my favorite part of this whole repo. This makes it very simple. Once we define these fields, right? Then all we're doing is iterating through an array. So when we look at this, we're going to initialize the form, right? First, we've got the form. We're going to create a form builder group, and then we're going to add each field to it. Down here, when we initialize each form control, this is what we iterate each field through. We go through and check if it has a default value, and we're just handling each, pre-filled data, disabled, required, all that kind of stuff. So again, I think that this, there's comments in here. I think that this is all pretty self-explanatory code. This was some extra stuff we wanted to, if we want to have a slide toggle that will default the child. I'm going to skip down through that because I want to talk about this. This actually took me a very long time to write because I was still figuring everything out while I was going on. I wrote this a couple years ago, and I just made an infinite loop like 3 times during this, and I struggled with it. But basically what we're doing here is we are taking the, we're going through the reactive form, right? You probably know this, the form controls, dot controls. So we look at each form dot control, and then we're going to get the value from it, right? With the form dot controls. This is reactive forms again. And then all we want to do is get this out into a key value pair. See, this is an array of key value pairs. And with this, this is something that I've just used over and over again. When you have an array of key value pairs, everything becomes simple. So when you find that your code is getting more and more and more complicated because you've got all these different interfaces and things are getting crazy, right? And we do have this specific interface inside of the dynamic form, but when I leave, like I'm done, I've done all the interaction, and now when I leave the dynamic form and then I'm going to go and do something with it, maybe I'm going to go into my state management, update the database with whatever it was that I just got. I don't necessarily want to take all that stuff with me. And that's why I want to let go of the reactive forms, let go of all of that overhead, and just take out the key value pair with the form name and the form field name and the value of it. So this simplifies it. And so I want to show you one more thing. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like after we've implemented this. What did I want to show you? Oh, I want to show you this little thing. This looks very almost boring. I would never have paid any attention to this poor little, what is it? Form group directive. It's like the redhead stepchild that nobody pays attention to. I've never seen like a tutorial about this or anything. I've never even really seen it mentioned. It's just not, that cool, but it actually is very cool because this file, when I was trying, remember I showed you this one where we do the ngFor with the field, and then I have that field. But what happened was when I'm taking all of these, input fields, when I was trying to pass them back to the form, I was finding myself having to pass, because remember I wanted to use that, I wanted to use the errors. And if you're doing validation with reactive forms, you need to have the, dirty, checked, pristine, all that kind of stuff, right? And so what I was doing when I wrote this the first time is I was actually passing a bunch of inputs and outputs and emitting from the field to the form. And it was just this file was getting bigger and bigger and bigger because I didn't know any better. And what I found was this little tiny thing that looks so boring, I was actually able to remove all of that. And when I use this form group directive and pass it with this one little line of code, what that means is in the parent component, when I go up to my dynamic form, I have access to everything, all of the reactive forms attributes, without writing all of that code, because I was passing all of those attributes and I didn't need to do any of that. So keep it very simple. And this, now I can go, I want to show you now what so if I show you the interface here, right, it looks exactly the same. So I'm not even going to rerun it because it looks the same. But what I want to show you, so you saw that demo without dynamic form, and it looks like this. And now I want to show you the exact same. So we've got a left column here with 4 fields. We've got a right column here. It's a matte grid tile with the form group. Now let's go look at it with the dynamic form. Where did it go? Here it is. And I want you to see the exact same page. That's what it looks like. And let's see, you don't really see what's going on there. Where is it? Let's open this up to the side. This is where the form went now, because all of those form fields now look like this. So this is really what, and the beautiful thing is I've implemented this many times. And once we implement this, if you have to change something, I actually had a client that came back with another request and said, hey, I want you to move this down. And I went, psh, easy, right? Then, oh, no, I broke it. Look, there's a comma. No, I broke it again. I should not live code while I'm on YouTube, but you get the idea, right? This is so simple. And if you have a bug, if you have to troubleshoot anything, update anything, this is very, very easy. So if you have a bunch of code, if you're finding that your code is like dry, but it's not dry, and you're just having a lot of repetition, then what you really want to do is pull those constants out away from your business logic and get them into a key value pair or something like this, so that you can make a dynamic field. If you've never done dynamic components before, I would say you want to really start with this. I mean, start with the what you've got, right? Because most of the time when I come into a client, where was it? Without dynamic form. Most of the time when I come into a client, they already have code that looks like this, right? So I take that code and I create the second step. I want to show it to you one more time because that's where the magic happens. For me, at least in my brain, that's where the magic happens. Because this is where I actually see, sorry, I'm talking and scrolling there. Okay, this is where I actually see everything that's going on. I want to open this next to this. There we go. So we have the field here. We have the field type here. And then we have an array of form fields. And once we get this is the part really, once you have this in place, especially this interface, writing the dynamic component for this is actually super easy. At least, well, it's not easy because when you're dealing with some of those dynamic functionality, the tutorials, like I said, are not so simple, because I struggled with this a little bit because all of the tutorials that I found for reactive forms didn't give me that functionality. But this, I mean, it's just so much cleaner once the code looks like this. So this is, like I said, one of the things that we're covering in the architect course. Also, all of this code that I just showed you is available on GitHub, and I'm going to ask Sherry to provide a link for you guys. It's free. You can use it. Again, it could be an NPM library, but I just don't think that this justifies having another library. I don't think you need to have another dependency to take care of. Just go and get the code and then use it as you want. And please, if you have questions, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. I love this code. It was really fun for me to write, and I love talking about it. So feel free to reach out. Also, one more thing, and then I'm going to shut this off and we'll go back to Sherry and Max. After this, we're going to do, I actually got this idea from Pete and Josh over in Angular London. We had kind of a little after party after the meetup. So tonight after this, not right now because I want to see Max's talk. So you guys have to wait until Max is done. But after ngCopenhagen is over, then if you want to head over to angularnation.net and join us, we're just going to have a little quick after party. If you want to talk more about this code or anything, then join us over there. And I think that's it. That's it for me.
Okay, that was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So yeah, before the talk, I also told you that that I had to learn this dynamic form while I was working at a bank, and we had forms inside the forms, really complex, and then this dynamic form was the savior there for me, to be honest. And in the beginning, it's so crazy. But once you got to learn it, and you go back to the normal way that you write the form. This is okay. I have to write all of this logic.
Yes. Yeah. You can't unsee it because you see that it's like that's not dry. But the first time I wrote it, I struggled with it a lot. And that's why I wanted to. I thought so much about sharing it as a library because it's cool code, but it's not the point. It's the reactive forms is not the point. And that's why I use it for teaching. That's why I filled it up with comments and I just use it for teaching, because it's not about reactive forms. It's about the beauty, like using Angular for what Angular, like if you're just writing Angular and you have an Angular module, doesn't mean that you're using all of that stuff, but Angular is beautiful for stuff like this. So yeah.
Yes. And I remember that before actually these reactive forms, there was, I guess, ngFormly. I used to do that in
gods.
Yes. I used to do that with AngularJS. That's also kind of the same idea.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That was painful. That was that's old school cool right there. We were Angular before Angular was cool.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I can actually there was only one question that the link to the URL to Angular Nation, which I provided it in the chat. And I also already provided the link to your GitHub in the chat, but I'm going to send it to the follow-up emails to everyone as well.
Awesome. And they have to, so if they put their email in, then I have to go through and click on it to approve it. But I'm going to do that while Max is talking. So if you're not already on Angular Nation, you go in there and put in your email, and then just in a few minutes, as soon as I get off camera, I'm going to go and click everybody and approve everybody, and you can come in and join us like 5 minutes. Is Max is here? Can I stay for a minute and say hi to him, because I haven't seen him in forever and I love Max.
Definitely. We have Max here. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you? You look good. I haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah, long time not that bad. How are you?
You look really good. You look very healthy.
Thanks. Yeah, I do some evening walks every day.
That's awesome. Well, you look good, Max. I miss you. I want to have a meeting with you sometime when we're not both on ngCopenhagen, because I haven't seen you in a long time. And I'm excited about your...
Let's have a call. I bet we have tons of things to discuss and millions of things to collaborate on.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to... Hey, I didn't tell you this before, but after this ngCopenhagen tonight, we're going to jump over to... Angular Nation and have an after hours party. So if you have time, and I know you might not have time because you just found out about this like right now, but if you have time, come over and hang out with us and we can talk, and then they can ask us questions about your code too. I was excited because I know you've been talking about PWA.
Send the link. Yes, we'll do my best.
And now you're talking about like PWA in the cloud, which I love. So
yes.
We're going to wait until your talk is over because I want to see it. So I'm going to shut up. I'm going to drop off and then let Max.
Go, Bonnie. We also have kind of a thank you note for you here that I posted here.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So.
All right. We'll see you guys in after hours. I'm going to jump off and then I'm going to watch the rest of the show, and I'll see you guys at the top of the hour.
See you. And the next speaker for today. I'm pretty sure that majority of you already know Maxim. So he is also one of my, right now we are even colleagues. So we're working almost in the same team. And he is like me, developer engagement lead at Microsoft. He is co-organizer of NG Vikings, happen to be just like me. So Maxim and we met many years ago in Spain, and then we have stayed actually connected since then. And we are collaborating in many different things. So, and it's the first time actually, Max, that I'm introducing you on the stage. So this is
that's hilarious. So yeah, we know each other for years. We ran tons of events together, but I believe this is my first appearance at ngCopenhagen.
That's true. You should visit us more often, Max.
My pleasure. I really can't wait when it becomes possible and safe to travel again. And I miss this real stage feeling. But we have what we have, and I think it opens new opportunities. So we can now stream for all worldwide audience. And good evening, dear folks who join from around European time zone. And I believe good night, folks who join us from US. And good morning, good afternoon, good day, folks from Asian part of the world. Yes, so let's spend next 45 minutes in doing some hacking.
Yes.
Are we good to start sharing?
Yes, I just need to share your screen.
Yes.
And when Max is sharing this screen, you can also actually in the chat tell us that where you are watching us from. That's going to be fun to know.
Oh yes, please share your location. Let's check how many different countries do we have online at the moment.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
I clicked share, and I believe you'll see this.
Yes. And so the stage is yours, and see you in the Q&A session.
Yep. Okay, folks, what's on our agenda today? Thanks, Sherry, very much for the introduction. We are soulmates with Sherry on multiple projects levels, so it's great pleasure to be here. Tonight or now, we are time zone friendly. We will take a simple Angular application. We'll convert this to a progressive Angular application using Workbox 2, and we'll host it to the Azure Cloud 3. What to expect? You will see lots of jumping back and forth from code editor to the browser, and lots of stuff with developer tools of Microsoft Edge. You definitely will see tons of sharp edges because it's all live, it's all 100% demo. You will see only one slide, and I just keep it on the screen just to copy paste some code from this presentation I have about PWAs to our files, and no more. Let's start. All the links we'll use today, I'll ask Sherry to share with you, maybe in follow-up email, or maybe using this chat window and our great StreamYard platform. We start from the repo called Angular PWA. You see we have tons of branches here, and I use this repo as my main repo for the PWA workshops. But today we have literally like 40-45 minutes, so do not expect that we go through all the steps. Do not expect that we'll get full-scale PWA application. No, the main intention for me is to show you the flow in a big picture and to explain where to improve this, where to make it more colorful, loud, and if we are going to speak about technical terms, more feature rich, more user friendly, I'll explain you everything. But of course, we'll take care only of very core part of PWA, and this core part for us will be offline readiness of the application. So basically, we'll create the application shell model, and we'll make sure that it works offline, maybe with some, let's say, UX glitches, which I will explain you how to improve. Again, this will be sort of homework for you, and to make sure that we can install this on our devices. In my case, we'll use Windows 10, and let's make sure that this PWA will be part of the operating system, like a first-class citizen in Windows 10. And then I hope the time will allow us to push this application to the Azure cloud to make sure that it's available globally, worldwide. And maybe I'll have some time to explain some extra cool features of what we can get from Azure cloud as front-end developers. Let's start. The application itself is quite simple, but we will use even smaller subset of what we have. This is how it looks like, and I already told that I run full-scale PWA workshops based on this application. This is why we have multiple tabs here, some buttons. But in the big picture, we don't care about everything except the application itself. We want to make sure that it's available online. This is our goal for today. To save some time, I already cloned this repo to my local machine. So it's called Angular PWA, and the fact that you see it on this URL, localhost 4200, it's because I run command ngserve. No reason for you, dear Angular developers, to explain what it does. But we will not use this command anymore. So it was just to validate that the application is here and it's working. And by the way, it built using some legacy version of Angular. Maybe it was Angular 7 by those years. I just wanted to make sure that, let's say, even this quite mature application is still working without any need to be like updated to current versions. Any extra movements not needed in that case. So that's really good. I love how the Angular upgrades the versions. So let's terminate this application. And let's build it. So let's run another command you know and use super often called nvbuild. Hopefully, in a few moments, we'll have something rendered in our dist folder. I just want to why we are going to ignore ngserve for even for our local purposes, because it's not that friendly with service workers. The intention of ngserve is to somehow mimic the real server with all this in-memory magic and all this instant reloads, etc. We just don't need it. Furthermore, it somehow conflicts with idea of the service worker, which tends to be very conservative to cache whatever possible to cache, of course, using our code. So yeah, this is why we will use another super simple HTTP server called serve. You will find it on npm, just npm install serve. It works great for our needs, and it's simple enough. So after I hit this command, we have another port 5000. This is default port for serve, and I just want to make sure that we have something rendered in our dist/Angular PWA folder. Let's give it a try here. Localhost 5000. Maybe I have some leftovers from my previous experiments. No, so it's clean, and here basically I think the most important part of our today's setup is this developer tools. So I'll keep the application window itself quite tiny because we want to put main focus here. So application tab is our way to go today. And of course, if we click offline here, just to mimic offline experience, we'll see nothing, right? We can launch the game, but let's wait until the end of my session. Okay, let's go back to sort of online, right? It's still everything locally. Now, time to create the service worker, and we start with let's say let's be very naive and try to. First, let's make sure that we are able to connect service worker to our application at all. This will be absolutely empty, silly service worker, but we want to see that it's registered, it properly attached to the application. To do this, let's start with the registration. I have some windows open with the snippets. I will copy paste just to save some time on typing, but I will explain you everything what I do. So we open index.html of the application. I just want to make sure that I open it from the source folder, not from dist. Yes, it's the correct one. And I paste the code I have. It's absolutely framework agnostic piece of code. It's pure JavaScript, feature detection if we ever have service worker in that browser. Then we want to postpone the registration of service worker until every resource on the page was loaded, not to compete for processor time and network with the main thread. And then we use a method called register of service worker object of our navigator. If we are talking about Angular, it's not the best place to inject this code, because in Angular we can do a next step. We can make sure that the UI was rendered. So to postpone the moment of service worker registration and the work started even further, not to compete again with main JavaScript thread, which is rendering our UI. In that case, it's better to put it into then close of Bootstrap module. But again, for the case of simplicity, we'll skip this for now. Let this be not perfect, but good enough option for us. Okay, so we have the code for registration, right? And we need to create the service worker itself. To make sure that this code, new code within index.html will land in this folder, let's run ngbuild again, because every ngbuild wipes the content of dist folder. You see now it's empty. It will take only a few moments. Yeah, ngbuild without prod flag creates, let's say, debug version of our application assets, not super optimized, not enough minimized, etc. But it's good for our purpose for now. Okay, so let's make sure that index.html is the correct one. Yes, I see this this code we just injected. And for the case of simplicity, let's just create manually this SW.js file. I know that on next ngbuild this file will disappear, but again, you remember that now we want to make sure that we register service worker correctly. And to, as I promised, I have one slide, not to even show, but to copy paste code from, and we put it here. And let's just add extra login saying something like hello from SW. Okay, so if I did everything correct, on the refresh, we have to see some changes here. Let's give it a try. Of course, I forgot to start the server. That's so mean. No, this is wrong window. Oh, too many windows, you know. Ah, yeah, I have the website here. Yes, something happened. You see that we have the service worker registered. It's absolutely useless. It only says hello from service worker. Good. So what we do next? Let's have a look at what we actually pasted from my slides explaining how to create service worker manually. You see that the code within service worker is wrapped into listeners, and basically all the payload, all the workload of service worker is the code that reacts on some events. Event called install when service worker installed, activate when we have to write the code to manage the versions, and the fetch where we actually intercept the requests to direct this request not to the network, but to get the data from cache. If we start coding here all the manual way, how to take this explicit list of resources, like file one by one, and on the application start, put it into the cache storage of the browser for later serving in offline mode, this will take time, right? This will take time. This might take hours, maybe days to have it production ready. I'm not saying that you don't have to go that way at all. Absolutely not. But again, there is no chance for us to do something, let's say, production ready, well tested, well debugged in the 30 minutes we have left. This is why we are going to request for the help from the library called Workbox. This is open source library created by folks from Google DevRel, Web DevRel team, Jeff Posnick, Phil Walton. And of course, as any open source project, it's widely supported by the community. It's quite mature. It's like in its version 5 currently. There is version 6 in alpha. I'd say it's battle tested on tons of real-life projects, so you can use it without any worry. And of course, it's absolutely framework agnostic. It works with Angular, React, whatever, and of course, any framework less front-end applications. Okay, so how to start? And first, let's understand, what do we want to get from Workbox for now to get our application ready for offline work. We want Workbox take care of all that heavy lifting. We want Workbox to take care of pre-caching all the resources. So basically, all you see here, we need to put into the cache storage, and of course hereafter it's not HTTP cache, it's a special storage we have in all modern browsers. So pre-cache. Then we want to ask Workbox to manage the versions. Definitely we don't want to have the version 1 forever in our cache. And after all, we want to ask Workbox to intercept all outgoing HTTP requests from the application and to react correspondingly. So in some cases, this request will go as is to the network. In some cases, this request will check if this resource, for example, logo PNG, exists in cache, and then we can serve it straight from there. So it's quite a number of code lines, I can say, because there are tons of edge cases, tons of options of HTTP calls, tons of details about the routing, right? We want like every route of our application be served by the service worker. So yeah, again, by implementing Workbox in this project, we save lots of time. But still, I encourage you to not ignore the opportunity to experiment with your own service worker. Good. I think I gave a proper introduction to Workbox. Time to start doing something. If you remember, we need service worker rendered by or generated, you name it, by Workbox. So basically, we need Workbox help on the on the build time at this particular moment. And to get this help, we of course go to npm. I hope you see my screen well. I increased the size compared to what I normally have. Npm install Workbox-build. We need only this module for now. We can safely put it into the developer dependency because we need it only during build time. But yeah, for now, it doesn't matter so much currently. So let's just install this. And Workbox has multiple opportunities how to use this. You can use this as a Webpack plugin. You can use this as a node module, and you can use it as a full-scale CLI. So I'm not sure that I love that trend that libraries tend to have CLIs these days. Like every single small library wants to pollute your global scope by injecting its comment. But yeah, we go for using Workbox as node module. Yeah, I've seen some strange errors. Hopefully, it's not something critical for our workflow. Node module, that means that we have to write some Node.js script, right? That means that we have to write some JavaScript code, but not for browser, but for running on the build time. Okay, let's do this. Let's create a new file, and let's call it, I don't know, let's call this service worker build. JS, this will be JavaScript, and yep, this is point number 1. Let me go back to my snippets and copy paste from copy the code for this particular file. I'll explain you what it does. Yes, go back to editor. swbuild.js looks correct. Yeah, basically we need only one method from the package called Workbox build. Okay. And it all starts with configuration, always, right? What do we want to tell to Workbox? We want to provide some information about our application. Of course, Workbox, as framework agnostic, it knows nothing about our particular setup, about our particular project. So we want to say, hey, Workbox, here is the output directory of the application. So basically, where ready to go application is located, just a file path. Then we want to explain, hey, Workbox, please take exactly these files for pre-caching. You see, it's quite generic set. Of course, for your project, you can fine-tune this. But yeah, today we are about big picture, and this is good enough to maybe we'll put some unneeded files from for the application shell. We don't care about this that much now. Next, let's jump here. Want to say, hey, Workbox, put the output of service worker you generated to this location. And if you remember, we register file called swjs. So let's just update it here. And this is important part. We also say, hey, Workbox, by the way, this is the source of our service worker. And since we mentioned some source file, we just have to create the one. Let's go to our source folder and let's create service worker.js. Okay, I hope the location is correct. And what's there? What should we put into the source service worker? Let's go back to my snippets. And this time we go straight to the website of Workbox. And this is, by the way, it has a short URL called workboxjs.org. Let me check if that still works. It's way easier to remember. Yes, workboxjs.org. Yeah, it just directs you to the developer set Google resource. Good validation. And get started. So first it says how to register service worker. We already done this. And basically we have multiple options. So you see it's always some technical decisions here and there and there. Today we go for the simplest option of using Workbox. We'll use this from Google CDNs. Not the perfect way at all, because like it's challenging, if not impossible, to debug this locally if we are disconnected, right? So of course we always can download this library itself and put it locally, and there is even helper in Workbox CLI for this. But maybe the best option will be to go for bundled version of Workbox. It's definitely out of our today's scope. We just don't have enough time to go for proper setup of service worker. But what I can say that instead of importing all the Workbox library with all the features, you might easily need like 5% of this library. You can literally pick method by method. I believe starting from Workbox 4, they support this ES6 imports. And you can apply all the techniques of modern front-end to your service worker, to bundle, to minify, to tree shake, everything. But again, tonight we go for the simplest option. Yes. What else? Now it's absolutely useless service worker, right? It imports the library itself and do some logging. We want to ask Workbox to do pre-caching for us. And to do this, we need one more line in this file. Let's paste this here. What it does. You see, this is method called precache and route, and some sort of placeholder, sort of template, where we want to provide all the information about our particular project, what we have in that folder. To do this, actually, we created this SW-build.js to create from this source service worker, the one which we place into dist folder, the one which has all the information about every single file here, every single file we want to pre-cache. So pre-cache, this is part number one, and route, this is all the rest about serving. So basically, this one-liner creates full-scale, manageable application shell for us. It pre-caches, it manages versions, and it serves. Time to give it a try. I talk too much. Service worker JS. Let's make sure that location is correct. Yes, it's in source. This silly service worker will be rewritten, hopefully, by this SW-build.js. Okay, moment of truth. Let's run this SW-build.js code. And yeah, so we provided configuration, and then we use this configuration in inject manifest method. We are going to inject information about our application exactly here. Instead of this template, there will be array with our resources listed. SW-build. Yes, something happened. Let's open this SW.js. Oh, completely different story, you see? Now, in our dist folder, we have the service worker, which is ready to go. And the only difference in that case from the source service worker is this part, right? It's really not a big job what inject manifest does. It iterates through all the files based on the templates we provided and calculate hash sums for Workbox to be able to manage the versions. But definitely this is something we don't want to do by hands, right? This is why we ask the power of Workbox build to do it for us. And especially when we go for production build, when every of this file will have its own hash sum injected as a part of file name. Definitely, we don't want to do anything manually. Okay, now I think we are ready to test it in our service. In our browser. Before doing this, I encourage you, before any new iteration of service worker testing, clear site data. It will save you tons of nerves, tons of minutes, if not hours of debugging, to make sure that we start a new life of the application. Let's hit refresh. So, and again, Maxim forgot to start the server. New service worker was registered. Okay, you see now we have hello from Workbox and quite extensive debug information. It's very good for debugging. Of course, you can remove this information when you move it to prod. And now I believe we have something here in the cache storage I mentioned multiple times during today. Yes, we have some files here, and actually it was done by Workbox in this method called precache and route. So now we look at the result of precache part of precache and route method. Okay, so what is it, by the way? It's actually cache storage is storage for HTTP responses you send using get method. Basically, this is absolutely the same file which you host somewhere. Let me try to Sure. Yeah, so no surprises at all. These are same resources plus some cache busting addition, again from Workbox. This is completely its internal kitchen. If we don't want to look here, we can just ignore this part, which is under the hood. What we want to test now is offline readiness of the application. And to do this, I will mimic offline mode, or I can just shut down this server. Okay, let's give it a try. Are we ready to go offline? No? What? Why? Something went wrong. No surprises. Okay. Vendor.js failed. That's interesting. So what I did wrong in that case? I love these unexpected things. Let's give it another try. It might happen that service worker, the previous one, was not properly replaced by the new one. Service worker has very interesting life cycle. And let's make sure that this one is from Workbox. Yes, it is. Okay, let's give another try offline. So what is wrong? Okay, let's do it differently. Let me close this version of browser, because sometimes it hangs when the service worker sort of stuck in the previous tab. Let's open this again. Yes, the application itself is here. Workbox reporting, all good, all is fine. There is some error, but I believe this is related to one of the extensions I have. Let's give it another try offline. That's interesting. What could go wrong, right? Exactly like I wrote in the description of this session. I expect your dear Workbox to serve index HTML from cache for me now. But for some reason, so let me check the network tab. When something goes wrong, you can always go and check what's going on. So I don't see index HTML here at all. Let me explicitly write it down. Service worker, and it should be here. I see it. It's served, but not rendered, and no errors in console. So it looks, yes. Let me check one thing. I think I had this this error with one of previous workshops. You know what, folks? Let's check the size of vendor.js. I bet it larger than some threshold, which is by default not pre-cached by Workbox. I'm sure that it's about that. And let's do it differently. Let's give Angular a chance to create proper bundle set. Let's render this ng build dash prod. So then we will see the difference. Let's let me go back to the application and let me go back to online service workers. Yes. So why is it done? It's like a reminder from Workbox team for us folks about do not pre-cache too large resources. Of course, there is a setting for this, and we can update our configuration. Let me find the setting name for you. It's Workbox build reference. Configuration cache ID should be somewhere here. Maybe on, yes, maximum file size to cache in bytes. It's optional, but by default, let me check where is the default value of this one. It's strange that it's not listed here. Should be listed. If I remember correctly, it should be something around 2 megs. But let's double check that Angular. Yes, now it's finished, and I guarantee that. First the bundle itself way smaller, way lighter, and now we have to rerun SW build, of course, because file names were changed and everything was changed. Okay, service worker generated. Go back to our testing place. Open application tab again. It's online. Let's clear everything. Okay, and we are online. Let's start the serve because we need to serve it at least for the first time, right? All good, all good. And now, the moment of truth. Again, let's go offline. I close my eyes. Yay! We have it. You see, folks, we can say that now our application is offline ready. There are some improvements possible, of course, but let's now do the following. Let's test it in the real server. We have a few minutes left, and I believe, even 7 minutes is enough to host this on Azure Cloud, because it's that simple that you'll be surprised, I promise. Okay, shutting down our local server. I think, of course. So you remember that now I run ng build, and also I run SW build separately. And of course, it totally makes sense to combine them in one build command. Let me open package.json, and this is command for building. If I run npm run build, it runs this one. Okay, so first let's make sure that we have production build, and then we add our great script to generate service worker for us. Let's be very explicit this time. Okay, now let me check. Which branch are we in? Or yeah, we just can create the new one. Git checkout. No, not check, but check. Let's call this ngCopenhagen PWA. Okay, let's switch to the new change. let's add everything that we just, that we just updated. Let's commit everything, PWA test, and let's push this to our GitHub repo. So the branch name we have ngCopenhagen PWA. Running. Good. Let's double check that we have this branch created for us on GitHub. Refresh. Yes, the branch is here. Now let's go to Azure portal. If you don't have a subscription here, there is a free trial. Just search for Azure free trial. You will immediately get an access to majority of the services, and many of them will stay free forever for you after this, I believe, 1 year of free trial. It's 1 year plus limitation on budget, something like you have $200 as a free trial, something like this. So you'll have enough to try everything, and many of services will stay forever free for you. Furthermore, static web apps service, which we are going to use now, is completely free now because it's in preview. I don't have any idea about the next stage for this in terms of pricing, but I'm sure personally that it will have pretty generous free tier. So let's give this a try. How do we start? We create a new project here on Azure portal resource group. If you tested Azure, it's the way to group multiple workloads from multiple services. Let's give it a name, ngCopenhagen PWA. Doesn't matter the region, and you see now it's only free, which is good for us, right? Now we want to point to particular repo and branch on GitHub. I'm already authorized on GitHub. This is why I don't have this login dialog. Maybe you will see this one. And see here, I see everything I have in my GitHub. All my organizations, all my repos. I think it's called Angular PWA. Yeah, too many projects called starting from Angular, and exact branch. We go for this one. I think yes. I was a bit too fast with hitting on the create button, because we also have to provide a bit more details to have this application completely ready for CI/CD flow. And you see, there are some very nice presets for many frameworks, and of course, we can create completely custom one. But let's go for Angular. We need to do only one update. It's exact path where our application distribution files located. And in case of Angular, you know, it's not just dist, it's dist/project name, which is Angular PWA in our case. Okay, I think we are good to go. We skip API part for today for saving of time. It's too simple application for us. Now we are ready to create this. Go. This will take only a few seconds. Deployment in progress. I love these words. Yeah, we'll take extra couple of minutes for testing of the application. Yes. So what we got here, we have globally distributed hosting plus battle test URL for us. So it auto-generated. We will see nothing here for the moment because the website is building by GitHub at the moment, and we can check the status. So what happens under the hood now? Basically, if we go to actions, GitHub is now creating the environment, like doing this npm installation and then building the Angular application by running npm run build. So I hope that this command is perfect enough to create ready to run application. But if something goes wrong, we'll see all the errors here. So, and every time you push something to this repo, this flow will restart, resulting new build and the new deployed version of our application. It's super convenient. Furthermore, you can create staging environments for your application to test something before you actually roll this out publicly. If you create pull request for this, yes, again, some extra errors. If you create pull request, Azure Static Web Apps Service will create a staging environment here, so you can in the new URL, so you can test it before you switch the environments. How do you switch this? Just by approving or rejecting corresponding pull request. You rejected this test environment, gone, like nothing happened before, right? If you approve this pull request, this test environment becomes master environment, and of course you can attach your custom domain, your superwebsite.com, instead of using this URL. Okay, so it's building. Maybe I had to upgrade version of Angular, but still, let's give it a try. One thing I completely lost in my narration is creating a web app manifest. For to save some time, we'll skip this in hands-on mode, but to make the application not just offline ready, but also installable, you have to create simple JSON file with providing some meta information about your app. And you can do it manually, or you can use help of this tool called Pwa Builder. It exists in multiple forms. I have it in my VS Code as extension, and there is a website called Pwa Builder, which will guide you through the process of creating this web manifest, and plus tons of other features, also including generating of a service worker for you. Let me have a look what's going on here. Okay, despite all these tons of red lines, something was generated for us, and now we are copying the files to corresponding location, uploading build artifacts. I love this, and I love this green line. It inspires me. And let's give another 10 seconds for this action to be completed. Yay, visit your site. I think we have this URL open already. Let's open big and dark, in my case, developer tools. And now we are ready to give it refresh. Yes, we see the website. We see the service worker successfully attached and loaded. And this is service worker generated by Workbox. And the last part of today's show. Let's try offline readiness again. And we click offline. We hit refresh. Yes, that works. And as I promised, there are some UI glitches. Why do we have menu written here instead of beautiful icon? Because we load the icons from external resource. And we don't want to pre-cache this. We want to cache these resources on the fly. But this will be in the next episode of Angular PWA plus Azure show. On that, thank you very much, folks. I hope that you got some extra knowledge. I forgot one very important thing. I forgot. Let me open this file. I have it here. Azure Heroes. Folks, you were learners today, right? So you learned about Azure, and this is why you all qualified to get your badge of Azure Heroes program. So this is super simple URL for you to follow. Let me make it even bigger. Yes, aka.ms, get Azure badge. And just follow instructions there. You'll get this beautiful badge with this cute animal badger. Collect these Azure badges, and now that's all from my side.
Thank you, Maxim, very much. It was great presentation. While you were talking, I also asked people that if they use Workbox before, and seems like that nobody tried it before. So I really hope that this is going to be the first time that that people saw that how easy it is, so they're going to try it themselves. I didn't see much of questions here, so folk, you can actually type a question while we have Maxim here, so like he can answer the questions. There are a lot of people that they thanks you, so it was a great demo. And then yeah, so I wanted to tell you that you forgot to pray to the demo god, and that normally happens.
Yes. You know, it's a good reminder from Workbox team to not generate too large bundles, right? So it's like, hey, Maxim, are you sure that you want to push 2 megs JavaScript file to production, and furthermore to pre-cache it to all devices of all your users? No, Maxim doesn't want to do this. Thanks, Workbox team, for this reminder. We can do better.
Yeah, that's good. That so everybody will have it in mind, and you have also another thank you as well. And yes, Bonnie is also watching us, and which reminded me that she wanted me to actually to remind you all about the party that is going to be this fun. So there will be an after party at Angular Nation, so it will be good that you all join there. Yeah, Bonnie will be there, and I guess I will also stay for a bit. My dinner is ready, so I'm going to stay for a short while and then going to have the dinner. And Maxim, if you send me the links, I'm going to post it for everybody on the meetup page. So everybody will have access to the demo, to the badger, and to everything.
Cool.
And, yes. And thank you again for joining us for the first time. And I hope it's not going to be the last time. And definitely we want you to have the second episode of.
Yes, I already promised. So there is no chance for you to avoid me on ngCopenhagen.
ngCopenhagen loves you, so, and wants you back. Okay. So thank you, everybody, and see you all next time. And we might actually change the format from having 2 speakers to 1 speaker, and have it instead of monthly to have it bi-monthly. So I'm going to keep you updated on that. And anyway, see you next time, and thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.